Hi, everyone, and welcome to Summer School. In today's episode, we're going to be talking all things travel as a photographer, as an entrepreneur, all of my travel tips and tricks as someone who basically, until now, has traveled for most all of my career for basically any gig I was doing. Not all of them, obviously. There maybe are some local ones we did, but for the majority of my business and of my career, people have not known where I've lived, and hence that we've traveled for basically all of our work. I say we because my husband's been doing this now full time with me for about 2 years as far as shooting weddings, second shooting, assisting, helping. So I've not just been having to figure out travel and travel expenses for one person, but all of that for two people. So we're going to do a little travel episode. But before we dive into that, we'll do some life updates, what we've been up to. We just shot our last wedding, so we'll dive into all of that. But yeah, if I've already done a travel episode, which I don't even know, I don't think I've done one specifically on travel. If I have, if you've already heard something like this, skip on past to the next episode next Tuesday. But if you want to know some of the things I've learned and maybe how I do things, then go ahead, stay tuned, listen, watch, whatever you are. What would you say? Whatever you're consuming this on, whether it be audio, video, we are now on YouTube. So however you're consuming it, enjoy the show today. LOL. But we actually just got back from our last wedding, so I'll go over that a little bit. And it was a travel wedding. And I feel like I learned some lessons. So I felt like this episode would be very fresh on my mind and a very good brief episode to catch up with all of you and to give you some lessons from summer, because I feel like I learned some hard ones this weekend, but they weren't that bad. But I am pregnant, so it makes traveling for weddings an extra level of complicated, especially when they're really far away. We've had some harder ones. We had one out in Maine in September, and being on a plane for 5 to 6 hours is quite intense in the 6 to 7 month pregnant range. So we have done lots of crazy things. Even pregnant, we've been traveling for basically all of our work. So we just got back from shooting a wedding in Hood River. We shot it this last weekend. If you're listening to this in live action, we just shot it literally 2 days ago. And it was a blast. We love working in Hood River. We're very familiar with Hood River in Oregon. This client actually booked us when we lived in Washington. So originally it was only going to be a 3-4 hour drive, but we ended up moving to LA last November. And so we instead had to fly up, which is completely fine. But this year we've actually done a ton of involuntary travel because we decided to move without it being planned, which is completely great and fine and okay, and you can make your own decisions. How that relates to our business is clients had already booked us, therefore they're not paying for some of that travel because they had booked us when we lived in, say, that area. So when we lived in Washington, we did not charge travel for Hood River. Even though it was 3 hours away, it was a market I was consistently pushing to almost be seen as a local inside of. No one knew I lived in Tacoma because I didn't want to work in Tacoma. So my local market was kind of that Portland, Hood River, Seattle area. So I was not charging for travel. I'd crash with friends or we just do it in a day. It was completely feasible. Now that we've moved, we did have to travel back for a lot of weddings. Some travel covered if they booked me since we moved, and some travel not covered if they had booked before I moved, because it is not their fault that I decided to move to another state. You know what I mean? So this last wedding, since everything was on our own dime, I wanted to save some money, wanted to get in and out, and definitely booked like the cheaper flight option. Still booked Delta nonstop because that's all we really, nonstop is all we fly. I'll be getting into that in a second with travel tips. But for this last weekend, I don't know what I was thinking. I book our flights. I'm the one that books everything. I'm like our travel agent. But I booked our flight for the day after the wedding at 9 p.m. thinking, the day after a wedding, I'm going to want to sleep because I'm going to be tired because I'll be really pregnant. I'm not going to want to wake up and head to the airport. Instead, I still had to leave where we were staying because, you got to check out by 11 a.m. And we had all of our gear and valuables, which I'm not going to leave in a car in Portland. So we're just stuck with all of our gear until 9 p.m. And, you can't eat as healthy when you're traveling, or in my opinion, it's much more challenging. So, gut probably isn't in an ideal state anyways. Basically, Sunday was probably the hardest day in all of my pregnancy journey. A 9 p.m. flight was not the best idea. I needed to be laying down with legs elevated, and had we just flown out in the morning, or had I just spent a little extra money to fly out like mid-afternoon, we would have been back at a reasonable time. Instead, I went from shooting a 10, 11-hour day to sleeping not as much as I should, to then getting on a plane at 9 and not getting home till 12:30 in the middle of the night, midnight. Not my most ideal scenario. Should not have done that to myself. So today we've just been recovering. I had a coaching call with my students with a financial advisor for our 102 coaching students. So if you are new here, I have a coaching program also called Summer School. This is like Summer School, the podcast. It's like your little mini tidbits. Then we have a coaching program where I help students grow their business, both in sustainability and in bookings and all the things we chat about, lots of stuff. So today was fun. We had a call with a financial advisor on thinking about the future, retirement, all that kind of stuff. The students could ask whatever questions that they wanted to ask her. It was a blast. But yeah, I guess one of my tips, even though we're not even in the tips part of the podcast, is whether you're pregnant or not, booking a 9:00 at night flight to get you back to your home after shooting a long wedding day, spend the extra $30. Don't get yourself home at like 1 a.m. It is a bad idea. That is not sustainable. I don't know what I was thinking. Don't do it. Don't be like me. You will regret it. It was not ideal. Yes, just don't. It's not worth it. But overall, the wedding was a blast, and we just travel so much. I thought it'd be fun to give you some of my tips and tricks. I'm not going to give you some revolutionary advice on like the specific credit card you must book. But let me pull up my notes because I wrote some of this down. That way I don't forget things for you guys. But travel tip number 1. So if you're anything like me and you started your business younger than some, I started full-time at 19 years old. So I've had a lot of experience as traveling as a young person, which oftentimes can look more expensive, whether that be certain hotels not letting you stay there. Say you were traveling, I'm pretty sure some, like, even Airbnbs haven't let me book until closer to now, like 25, 26 years old. Depending on what kind of thing you're renting, I now rent like retreat spaces and things that I've had to get my husband to rent for me on my behalf and stuff. So, depending on things, rental cars can be expensive. There can be young driver fees that end up being out the roof. Luckily, I'm not in that window anymore, but when I was, if you wanted to know a tip, trick, or hack, and you happen to have a AAA membership, which I think a lot of people have a AAA membership. So if you happen to have a AAA membership, and there's probably other hacks to this that aren't AAA, but AAA, when I was under the minimum age limit for the young driver fees, which are sometimes insane, like $20, $30 a day, like that's outrageous. AAA partnered with Hertz, and it not only waived the young driver fee, but I'm pretty sure it also gave like anywhere from 20 to 30% off. Let me look it up right now. AAA Hertz discount. What is it? 2024. Let's see. AAA members can save up to 30% off Hertz cars. Oh, that's like a special deal for, like certain days in October, blah, 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 blah. Basically, it's always some sort of percentage off, sometimes up to 35% off sometimes 20%. It's always worth it. And especially when I was younger, it did waive young driver fees. Don't quote me on that right now because I have no idea, but it saved me a ton of money when I was younger, and totally worth it. If you have Hertz, if you have AAA, it's like you might as well go with Hertz. We love Hertz. That's who we went through. Always substantially cheaper because of the AAA membership for us. And now we have earned enough status within Hertz to be literally always upgraded. I booked the cheapest car available, and we could leave with the most expensive car every single time, basically, we rent. So there's always benefits to sticking with certain companies. There's no reason to rent from Enterprise and then rent from Hertz and then rent from Six and then rent from Budget. There's no reason in doing that. You can build credit within Hertz as well. I think right now we're sitting on a couple days free for a rental car. And I'm sitting on it because I don't want to use that in business. I'd rather use that personally if we go on a trip. And since we're about to have our child, it could be fun to have a basically expenses paid trip when it is time that we would want to take trip with baby. So that's another advantage. You can build points, credits, status. All of those things are super beneficial in a business, in your personal life. However you want to use that, all of that, super beneficial. You should definitely make sure that you kind of stick with the same companies. I know there are people that do that with hotels as well. They only book through Marriott and then they get a million, free Marriott stays, et cetera, et cetera. We actually don't do it with hotels, not a specific chain, because I do feel like for us specifically with our type of business, I'm traveling to smaller places often that might not have the same exact chain hotel every single time. So instead of always renting through the same hotel, we actually have a membership with a travel agency, which pros to that, they can book us stays. We can get their assistance on things. Personally, I don't use that feature. I think that would be a great feature if you don't like booking travel or you don't feel skilled in it. I am so fast and efficient and good at finding the right things and the right deals that I don't actually take them up on the travel agent side of it. But that is a pro for a lot of people, and a lot of reasons that a lot of people do have memberships with travel agencies. For us, it was worth the money because on average their hotel stays were about $50 cheaper than anything I could find on Google. And with that being said, that's a lot. If you're staying, one year we traveled for 30 weddings. 30, if you're staying in a hotel, at least 2 nights of those, which normally more, 30 times 2 times $50. That's saving $3,000 right there. And that's on the minimum side of things. Normally our stays would be longer than 2 days. So travel agency was totally worth it for us in our scenario. Other benefits outside the travel agency, again, is when you're booking through the same people. So if you aren't doing maybe loyalty points within a certain hotel chain, say you're doing a travel agency, you're always building those points and rewards. And so we are building points and rewards through our agency, which then we will be able to vacation for free off of eventually here soon, which will be really fun. You always want to be building points. There's no reason to be booking all this travel if you're not getting points or rewards in some capacity with whatever avenue or company you choose to do that endeavor with. I know it might sound like a no-brainer for some, but I know even my own family, I don't think they have reward points for rental cars, but it's even if you're not traveling that often, you might as well become a member in some capacity, so that you are eligible for those reward points for earning status within those companies and growing that relationship with those companies, because it will benefit you a lot, especially if you are someone that hopes to travel more in the future or just wants to reap the benefit like Hertz Gold. It's free to sign up for, and oftentimes you'll get upgraded. So why not, And definitely if you have AAA, it's a great pairing. Outside of that, talking about points rewards, you should have a travel credit card of some kind, or a credit card that at least earns bonus points within travel purchases. Personally, we actually were able to honeymoon for free off of our credit card points, which was a blast. We ended up in an all-inclusive resort in Mexico, and it was off of travel, like credit card points, like completely free and funded. I mean, I guess like I could have cashed in those points, but you do normally reap more using the points than doing cash back. So that was like such a cool part of our credit card journey, I guess. You know, I'm not saying you should get a credit card to be able to honeymoon for free, but travel credit cards or credit cards with travel like bonuses and earnings are essential. We personally do all of our stuff for the business through Chase. And then I know their pairing with the personal credit card is also really good. So you can kind of like combine those points. We love Chase. That's who my accountant recommended. I am not a credit financial advisor or accountant guru, so make sure you have the right people if you want more advice on that side of things. But definitely make sure you're getting those points in some capacity. It's totally worth it. There's no better day than to start now. We don't actually do any of the like Delta Lounge credit cards or anything like that. I am in and out of airports. I do not personally feel a need to be in the lounge. And I also know a lot of the credit cards that did have lounge access were not having lounge access starting in 2024, 2025. And so for me, I was just like, it doesn't feel worth it. But yeah, I don't currently have lounge access. I don't really care to have it. And I know a ton of people do. So if you want to look into all the different types of credit cards, definitely do it. I have no intention of needing to be in an airport for enough hours to need to go to a lounge. We have Clear and soon TSA PreCheck, so I guess that's a travel hack. Have one of those, Clear or TSA PreCheck. We pay for Clear only because I have not had the time to go get interrogated for PreCheck. But Clear's been a lifesaver. Unless we're flying into a small airport, which we don't normally do. Portland was the smallest one we flown into for a while, and we had to go through normal security. I hated it. It was horrible. It took so long, and the line wasn't even that long, but it took so long. So I'm blessed in the sense that we do pay for that because we do travel enough for that to be worth it. So we, even with LAX, maybe get there an hour before boarding. So we've literally pushed it like 15 minutes before. I would not recommend, but I can skip the line. I try to give myself an hour because of hand checking film and things like that. So that is another tip that we will run into. I feel like I've just been rambling all of them. Maybe I should be more structured. One more tip. If you are a film photographer or a photographer that shoots hybrid like me and shoots some sort of film, I know you can buy like a lead bag and send it through scanners, and scanners aren't going to mess up film these days. I take no chances. We hand check all film no matter what. I've never had an issue unless it's been international, which is where I would say you could make sure you have like a scanner proof bag for just in case they make you send it through, because I did not have one in London. Luckily, my film did come back fine. But yeah, the Heathrow airport, they're intense and they do not hand check your film. And it was horrible. It was a horrible experience. But unless you're international inside the States, I've never had anyone give me an issue on hand checking film. It just does obviously take more time sometimes they're hand checking like 20 rolls or more, and I do feel bad a little bit giving them that much to hand check, but at the end of the day, they always do it, no questions asked, and I just try to budget a little more time to get through security for that reason. Also, we have so much gear, sometimes it gets flagged, just is what it is. It looks weird when someone's coming through with the amount of equipment we're coming through with, so I always try to give enough time for that, but we do have memberships to Clear and hopefully TSA PreCheck soon. PreCheck is in more airports than Clear is, so I would prefer to actually move to PreCheck most likely. But we're on the family plan with Clear, and it's not that expensive and was easy to sign up for and can skip the lines in any airport, and honestly makes our life so easy. I mean, we have literally gotten through security in like maybe 5 minutes, even with LAX. Like, it's so nice. Other airport related things. I traveled for the first probably 3 years of my career without a Pelican. So a Pelican, that if people didn't know what that was, they'd be like laughing, like the bird. We have a Pelican. We have the Pelican Air, meant for plane travel. And it's lighter weight, hard shell suitcase on wheels, built for, well, normally built for equipment of some kind. Ours is the track pads, and we built it out for our gear specifically. Every piece has its own compartment. For the first 2 to 3 years of my career, I don't know why I didn't buy a Pelican. It should have been like number one thing on my saving list for gear, because I was flying all the time and I literally was carrying the Wandered camera backpack that's like this large. It's massive. I look like I'm going to fall over wearing it because it's so big. I don't know how many liters the one is that we have specifically. I love the Wandered backpacks. I think they're phenomenal. They're waterproof. That'll be another tip we will get into in a second after the Pelican. But I was traveling with 2 Wandered backpacks instead of a Pelican, and sometimes I would even go as far as putting the Wandered backpack in a carry-on suitcase and then wheeling it around the airport. Don't be like me. Just buy the Pelican. Like, there's no reason to be carrying 50 pounds worth of gear on your back. One is not even healthy, but I don't know why. I just didn't think to buy a Pelican. Like, no one I knew had them because a lot of them were in the more naturey worlds. So they were just like backpacking with their gear. So when I got into film and bigger weddings, you know, I'm bringing like a lot of equipment, and I was just carrying all of this on my back. I don't even know how, because currently we have 2 Wander backpacks and the Pelican, and they're full to the brim. So I don't know how I consolidated that into 2 backpacks and was carrying them by myself before my husband was working with me. Don't ask. I don't know how I did it. But pro tip, buy the Pelican. It's worth it. It's so nice to be able to just wheel my stuff into a venue. It also, I think, looks a lot more professional in some ways than coming in with like multiple backpacks and stuff everywhere. You just have a very clean, concise, compartmentalized little suitcase that you roll in, nice and easy, simple, totally worth the money. Get the Pelican. The backpacks, though, that we use the Wandered backpacks, WANDRD. That'll be another hack for you. Hack, tip, travel tip. I will say it's a travel tip because any sort of photography you're doing that requires natural elements that are not kind, I like this backpack for, but it's also not so rough and ready that you look like you're hiking. It still looks professional. So we have 2 of the black Wander backpacks. We have one of the smaller ones, and if you're looking at video, like yay big, and then the large backpack that holds a lot. What I like about them is the zippers are like double lined, so they're very waterproof. The top undoes, it rolls out, and you can shove a lot of stuff in there. Like, you could probably pack for a whole wedding day's worth of clothes in the top of some of them, but yet the inside still is a padded camera backpack with a unzipping back, so you don't have to like reach in. You unzip and you can grab as if you're getting out of a suitcase. And they, both sizes fit our max. Even the smaller one fits my laptop, which is not a super small laptop. I don't know the dimensions, but that was really nice as well. I know a lot of women in the industry, even friends of mine, who have the cute wedding photographer looking backpack, and it's like, maybe it's like brown leather and it's adorable. Those things are not that waterproof. And I've been so sold on my purchase. After one time I was shooting a wedding in Montana, and my second shooter set her backpack near a drink station. The drink like spout pouring thing got left open and drenched her cute leather girly camera bag. It was scary. Her hard drives were in there. Her memory cards were in there. Her laptop was in there. I'm pretty sure her laptop got ruined. I don't know about the memory cards and hard drive, if everything was okay. But, I mean, the inside of that backpack was just just soaked. And the Wandered backpacks are they're not absolutely waterproof, but they are very water resistant. And with the double lined zippers, like nowhere near the amount of water that got into that backpack is getting into the Wandered backpacks. So that is another reason I like them. You never know what's going to happen on a wedding. Sometimes cute is not always the correct answer, but I like that the Wandered bags, it also doesn't look like I'm going to go scale a mountain. It can look really professional. We have the black color. It works with our outfits. It's clean, simple. It doesn't get dirty easily. You can wipe it off really easily. We've had ours for years now, and they don't even look worn or weathered. And I mean, we put them through so many weddings and planes and tossing around, rentals, all the things. Truly a wonderful backpack. So Pelican Air, get one. Wandered backpack, get one. I'm trying to think. Airport hack, again, is if you want to buy basic economy seats, but say you're worried your Pelican might not make it because that overhead bin space fills pretty easily. We've been in that scenario since we're paying for some of our own travel for these weddings. Like, we're just flying normal basic economy flights, and we'll be flying with a carry-on of our clothes, our Pelican, and our 2 backpacks. And so we're not checking any bags. I hate checking bags. I don't know. I just like the comfort of knowing that everything is with me. And with weddings, it's like I'm only wearing like 1 or 2 outfits. I don't need a suitcase. I don't need a checked bag. So we have one shared carry-on that me and Jake put our clothes into, and then the Pelican would be the other carry-on, and then 2 backpacks. So, tip for if you're worried about overhead bin space. I cannot say that this is for every airline, but for a lot of airlines, well, I can't even say it's for a lot of airlines because I mostly only fly Delta or Alaska. But in our scenario, what we have seen work is oftentimes when they are going to fill up, they will ask people to voluntarily give some of their luggage. We will voluntarily give our clothing suitcase in exchange for being moved up in boarding so that our gear is insured to make it in the overhead bins. Just a little hack. I also heard a long time ago that you could get a media pass for certain airlines and like it has different benefits. I literally haven't done that. And I don't know if that's still a thing, but look into that if you would like to. I have no idea if that's still a thing, if people do that. I don't have any friends that do it, but I have heard that it's a thing that people have done. They like wear a badge and it says media, and maybe that makes sure your gear gets on the plane. I have no idea, but in case you're ever just in a pickle, tell them you'll volunteer a suitcase in exchange for moving up in boarding class. We got moved all the way to pre-boarding last time we did that, which was great. Like early. So outside of that, more travel hack tips and tricks. Air tags. Air tags are essential. One time we literally left a camera bag on a bus in New York City. Don't be like us, but honestly, when you start traveling for work, especially if you're traveling often, things might happen. Mistakes might happen. You might leave something in a rental car. Don't do that. But there are things that might happen. You might be like us and accidentally leave one of your camera bags on a bus at the New York City airport, and then somehow have to find the same bus to recover the backpack. But if we had had air tags back then, which we now have them in everything, we wouldn't have been waiting for this bus to circle back around in fear that I lost all my gear like the day before a wedding. So, take it from me, learn from my mistakes. We bought air tags after that, and I've since traveled for years now. However long air tags have kind of been around, I guess. I feel like it's been a while. With an air tag in every piece of things. I even have an air tag on my dog sometimes. People might steal dogs. Why not? Air tags are not that expensive. I think you get like a 4-pack for maybe $100. So we have like a little waterproof case clip thing. Air tag goes in Pelican, goes in suitcase, goes in backpacks. If for any reason you've seen like the horror stories of someone on Instagram, I literally saw a horror story of someone on Instagram that she had her backpack with all of a couple's wedding photos stolen on the airplane, which, I mean, I am anal, like my eyes are on my stuff like at all times. But on the airplane, someone got off, took her backpack, and she lost all the couple's photos. Some people are like, oh, why do you have that backed up? I understand, like, it might literally be on the memory card in the backpack. You might not have it on a cloud by then, like some sort of cloud service. That makes sense that could happen. But you know what would help that not happen? Having the AirTag in that backpack. So, very pro AirTag if you're traveling. I think it's just so smart and helps eliminate a lot of fear, especially if you're traveling to places that aren't as safe, like San Francisco, New York City, LA, Seattle, Portland, places with high crime where they might target photographers specifically. It's a good idea to have AirTags on all of your belongings, especially if you're checking bags for any reason. Then you can also ensure that while it might take a while for the airport or the airline to locate your baggage, if you have an AirTag in it, you can literally say, hey, it's right here. I need this. And you can literally tell them where it is. That's so great. So we have AirTags. I have one in my car in case my car ever gets stolen. Like, I have them everywhere now. It's so great. I need to currently go either charge or replace some of them because they're dying. But yeah, we literally have one on our dog too, just in case she ever gets lost. She's only ran away once, but in case it ever happens again. AirTags, an essential item. Great Christmas present gift. I've asked for them for Christmas before. I don't know. If you need Christmas present ideas, it's October. Your parents want to buy you something for your business. Ask for AirTags. I think that would be a great idea. I'm trying to think. More travel tips. Let's bring up our notes of things. Oh, okay. This is literally back on rental cars. This episode is going to be everywhere because that's travel. But rental cars, what I have noticed, which I don't know if this is true, but what I've noticed is rental cars are often cheaper booked, more last minute. / almost always. I always wait to book my rental cars now. I'm always booking with Hertz, so maybe this is a Hertz specific thing. Do your research, look it up yourself. But anytime I've booked rentals really far in advance, they've always been a little higher than if I booked them last minute. I think it's because they're trying to get things sold. I'd say you can see that sometimes similarly with hotels. If there's a lot of vacancy and they want that thing filled for that weekend, they're going to lower their prices. So with hotels, I would not wait to book them until last minute on purpose if you're flying into a small town, because then you could end up paying the opposite. You could end up paying a lot more for a worse hotel because everything is sold out. But if you're flying into a super big city with lots of options for rental cars or hotels, you might often see price decreases the later in the booking, not 3 months in advance like when you're booking your flight. As far as flights and booking flights, that goes into my tip as a wedding photographer. I do not fly layovers. Ever, really. Never. We have had one layover this year and it's for a family vacation. And that's because there was no nonstop option to that airport. If I were shooting a wedding, I would have flown into a larger airport and driven. So that is what I do. If I'm shooting a wedding and say, there's an airport in that town, but that 20 minutes from the venue, but there's a large airport, a big city, an hour and a half away, I will fly the hour and a half. First of all, your rental car prices will be cheaper most likely because you're flying into a large airport with lots of rental options. So you're already saving money there. And you don't have to worry about a layover. The hour and a half drive will be very equivalent or less time than doing a layover and having a flight with a layover to a small airport, which is not as reliable for flying out of in any capacity. Back in the day, before I booked all my own travel, when I was just starting out and I didn't know how to do travel weddings, I let a client book my flights because they asked and said they had travel points. They booked me into a small airport really close to the venue. Therefore, we had a layover and we were going to this small airport. Luckily, there were no issues with the layover on the way there. The reason I don't do layovers now is it is really easy to get from one big city to another. And if your flight gets delayed or canceled, you have plenty of time to rebook with a different airline or same airline, different time. That's why I also always fly out in the mornings, so there's plenty of time to do that when it comes to the day leading up to the wedding. On the day after the wedding, I'll do whatever I want. Who knows if it's my best ideas. But one time I did let the couple book, and they booked me for, we're going to book you at the airport close to the wedding venue. It's a tiny airport, so I'm flying into a small airport without many rental car options. And flying out of that same airport, when flying out of that airport, there was like riots or something that affected the flights. The flight was not happening, and there was not another flight for like 3 days. I had an elopement in 2 days back across the country. I then had to suck it up, and basically I could have charged the couple, I guess. It's not, I don't know. It was just one of those scenarios. Client experience was more important than my financial expenses of this wedding. I then had to get a rental car one way from that town to Boston and drive all the way to Boston on a one-way rental, which always costs more than renting out of the same place. Fly out of Boston the next day, so I had to get a hotel. The airline would not cover any of those expenses because I was not flying out of the same airport. I was choosing to go somewhere else. So they would not cover the hotel, would not cover the rental. But I could not wait 4 days to leave this town, even if Delta was going to cover the 4 days of the hotel until they had a flight leaving out of this town. So I had to go. That is why I do not fly into small airports. There are way too many risk factors. It is not necessary. There's always a larger airport, bigger city, not that far away. And especially when it comes to making sure that you're there for your client's event, you just have no guarantees with a layover. You could take an early morning flight, but if you have a layover in Detroit or Texas and something happens, you might not be getting there that day. You might be getting there the next day, and that's when the wedding is. So always book nonstop flights, no layovers, and I only fly into big cities. Those are the rules. And you can choose not to follow them and do layovers, but I think it is very risky in the world of wedding photography, where these are people's once-in-a-lifetime memories that should not have risk playing into them. We should eliminate all risk, and for your own sake. Let's see. I feel like that's actually most of my travel tips. Knowing me, I have a million other travel tips, but yeah, hand check your film. If you have AAA, sign up for that discount with Hertz. Try to use the same people, get the points, earn the rewards, have a travel credit card. I book my rental cars later because they're always cheaper, more last minute, but maybe you aren't okay with that. That's fine. You can book it early. Not everyone's okay with, the chaos that I put myself through. Potentially buy into a travel agency if it suits your needs. I'm trying to think. Try to only fly into large airports, but we already covered that. Oh, the last tip. This will be our last tip to round out the episode. I was a bad person and business owner, and I used to always buy snacks in the airport. I would never pack anything because I don't know, you're always just packing up for the wedding and you're packing all your gear, you're packing for a vacation. There's things to pack that aren't food, okay? But also, I am someone who has gut issues, but even if you don't have gut issues, maybe you want to be a financially responsible adult. Airport pricing is outrageous. I literally, even though I'm telling you this tip, and even though we packed a lunchbox for our last wedding, I ended up buying a $20 chicken sandwich or something outrageous at the airport because it was all there was, and I was worried that my bad pregnancy symptoms were just because I needed more food, so I bought more food. But travel hack, pack a lunchbox. I literally bought a lunchbox you'd have as a kid, and ice can go through the airport, water can't. So as long as you live within 30 minutes to the airport, you will be fine to travel with ice packs. Unfortunately, our hotel didn't have a freezer, so our ice pack got confiscated. So maybe buy temporary cheap ice packs, or maybe literally a Ziploc with ice that you don't care about. maybe there's better options outside of the ice pack I used, because our hotel didn't have a freezer, so I couldn't refreeze the ice pack, unfortunately. So it did get taken, but you can fly through with ice. So basically, any food you need, you should be able to take inside the airport with you. So especially pregnant, I'm packing like applesauces. We're packing beef jerky for Jake, maybe some little candy, granola bars, snacks for the wedding, because I need snacks for the wedding. Basically packing everything except for drinks. And that's revolutionary. I don't have to worry about buying anything once we hit the ground wherever we've traveled to. I already have all the snacks I could need. And there's no reason on wasting money on like a $5 bag of chips at the airport. I don't know what I was thinking the last 7 years of my life buying airport food. That was such a waste of money. So, pro tip, which maybe people know this and they're just not thinking about it. You can bring food and you can bring ice packs as long as they're frozen. You just can't bring liquid. So as long as the ice pack is frozen, you are good to go. As long as your car has air conditioning and your drive is maybe 45 minutes or less, that ice pack will stay frozen enough to make it through security. And I know that because I've done it multiple times now. So buy a lunchbox and pack some food, save some money, and be healthier. That is the end of travel tips with Summer Grace. If you have any questions on anything I asked, feel free to hit me up, DM me on anything I asked, on anything I said. If you have any questions on anything I said, feel free to DM me, hit me up. I'm sure there's so many other travel tips that I'm forgetting right now, but I wanted to go over those main ones for all of you that might be interested in travel wedding photography and how we do it specifically, now that it's been quite some time of traveling for weddings. So hit me up. I'm always down to chat. Leave a review if you love this episode. Share it with a friend. I would absolutely love to hear your feedback. Feel free to hit me up. Share it in your stories. That would mean the world to us. And if you're watching on YouTube, hit subscribe. Leave a comment. I would love to comment back with you. LOL. I don't know. I'm like YouTube language. I don't even know what YouTube language is. But go ahead and hit subscribe, and I cannot wait to chat with you all so much more, and I will see you next week. Bye.